can't come to a communication conference and not talk extensively. All right, so I'd like to start by just kind of setting expectations. We're going to do a lot. As we talk about communication styles and you start to understand my communication style, you will understand why I've packed so much information in today's event. But we are talking about essentially workplace communication, right? Inbox to impact. Everything that you do, every communication exchange that you have at a new job, if you're looking for a job, all of that is part of the impression formation. So the little things we might not consider preparing for or to approach as sort of consequential communication really is. So my goal today is to help you understand yourself, help you understand others, and help you recognize all of the little interactions and exchanges that you can use over time to really position yourself for success. And by success, I mean getting that job, I mean making the right impression with the audience, with the people, with the funders, whoever it is that you are trying to influence, and also establishing credibility so that when opportunities do come, you are immediately the person that people keep in mind, right? It's not just about making friends and getting along with people. We want to be strategic about how we communicate. So a little bit about me, as Derek said, I've worked a lot of places. I spent 20 years working in what I call the media, information, and communication space. I've been teaching for 15 years. The only two takeaways you need to know here are I've onboarded a lot of places. I've been the new girl many, many times. The other thing that's been central to what I've done is in every aspect of my job, right, teaching or working, is training early career people. So people who are just starting out, trying to position themselves for success, because again, those early perceptions of people in power, the people who you may not interact with all the time, you might not have a second crack at that exchange, and the only communication you have with them is that short email. They are extracting information about your character, your education, your potential in every little exchange. So I spent a lot of time working with my students, obviously, but the early career folks at work, making sure that they transition in and set themselves up for success long term. Also, I think we all know that it's extremely important, right? How we communicate establishes who we are in other people's minds. Beyond that, right, it unlocks other skills. If you are a good leader, if you have technical expertise, nobody's going to know if you're not communicating that strategically, right? Who needs to know that I'm the only person that understands AI or that I can do this thing, right? How do you, over time, again, begin to accumulate those messages to folks that let them know that you are the person you want them to think you are, right? Also, credibility is the goal, right? So I'm not going to teach you how to communicate so that you are the most popular person. That's another workshop somewhere else in Brooklyn. I don't know. It's not this one. I am not going to teach you how to be the most liked person. You probably will be liked. You all look wonderful, right? But really the goal is to establish credibility. Credibility has three components, right? It's expertise. Are you smart? Do you know what you're talking about? Or are you the person who talks a lot but doesn't make sense, right? We want to establish expertise. Goodwill, which is really just likability. Are you nice? You can be smart, right? But we all know smart people who are not likable. That's not a good combination. And the third is trustworthiness, right? Imagine someone is really smart and they're likable, but they're sneaky and you can't trust them. You don't want to be around that person either, right? That person's actually quite dangerous. So these are three components of credibility that are essential. The three legs of that stool do not work if you don't have all three. So the way we communicate that primarily is in our day-to-day conversations with people, in being prepared, right? These are little cues that signal to people that we are smart, we are conveying goodwill towards them, right? We have their best interest at heart, we are good, honest people. We need all of this, and you can't just do that in one shot. Beyond that, early career folks, I don't know what generation you consider yourself, but Gen Z in particular gets a bad rap. People like picking on Gen Z. You're not good communicators, right? You have your own language or too much text talk, right? Your over-reliance. You can overcome that, especially if you do it right away. If you walk into meeting someone, you walk into that early stage at that position, you start thinking about this from the interview stage, you can sort of put all of this to rest, right? It actually costs companies money when people don't get along, right? Right now we're at a point where we have 5 generations actively in the workplace. from maybe young Gen Z all the way up to late boomers who can't retire because the economy is terrible, so they're going to work until they're 90 years old, right? But we're all in the workplace together. So we have to, number one, understand our style, but really be more sensitive to understanding other people's styles so that we can adapt and work together, right? So that's kind of the direction I'll be pushing you in all day long. Also, the best employees are typically the best communicators. There was an article in the Wall Street Journal earlier this week that says people with a communication background, we're starting to see more of those types of professionals rising to CEO ranks. And that was never the case, right? To be a CEO, you usually came from finance or legal. Now comes people who have that ability to connect, that ability to tell stories. They're seen as people who can lead entire companies, which is good for you all, right? How many people here are creators of some kind? How many people are marketers or on the business side of communication in some way? How many people are open? I saw some hands going like this, figuring it out. Could be either of those things, right? Yeah, there is a lane for you in, quite simply, leadership, right? You can't lead if you're not an effective communicator. So this could be your superpower, but it starts from day one. We want you to win. It's as you all probably know, who's on the job hunt at the moment? Yeah. How hard is it to, someone tell me your experience in terms of just having an opportunity to talk to a recruiter one-on-one? Go ahead.
One-on-one is the best thing possible, especially in this day and age of technology. I love actually getting to have in-person interviews because the virtual ones are awful and make me want to tear my hair out. So I love being able to sit down and connect with someone, especially when, even in interviews, you can show off your personality so much more than you can show on a resume.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead with classes.
I feel like that when you hold them in person, they're also going to be, the recruiters are also going to be able to, they're also, I feel there's going to be more of a higher chance that they pick you because they actually will understand you more authentically instead of behind a screen or with those AI interviews that, and yes, believe me, in a class in college, they made us do like this AI job interview, and I'm like, this how does this help me?
That's a great segue, because who does it help? Put yourself in the position of the recruiter. Why the AI interview? Why the applicant tracking system screen? Yes, in the back with white shirt.
I'm sure it's to filter out the abundance of resumes and applicants that they get.
Because they are busy, right? They're overwhelmed. So our job is to think, okay, what's the middle, right? You might be someone who expresses yourself the best in person, but you're not always going to get that opportunity. So how do I understand the person on the other side who's probably just looking for very direct communication, spotting keywords? How do I sort of meet them in the middle? And the key is, again, putting yourself in that other person's shoes. Because unfortunately, you are going to have more virtual, AI, and digital encounters than you will in person. Right? So we have to be able to think about how we can translate our best selves, our personality, our attributes, right? Knowing that we want to communicate all of these things. I want them to think I'm smart, I want them to like me, and I want them to trust me. Right? So I'm not going to say things that are different from what's on my resume because that'll undermine trust. I want to share a little bit of my personality, but I don't want to share so much personality and be so social that they don't know I'm smart. So it's a balancing act. And the goal today is for you to be able to think more granularly about how you communicate, what your strengths are, and how to level up on the things that maybe don't come quite as naturally to you. Make sense? Everybody still with me? Anybody want their money back? I don't have it. Sorry. All right. So the first step, I'm going to ask a stupid question. Does everyone have their phone or digital device? Okay. I'm going to make you take a self-assessment, very short. First key is to understand our personality styles. Raise your hand if you've ever taken a personality quiz of any kind in your life, right? So some of these that I'm going to share with you might sound familiar, but they are important. First is the DISC personality styles. Essentially, it says that most people fall into one of these categories. Dominant communicators, they're assertive and decisive. The influentials or influence-driven personalities, those folks tend to typically be more social, right? Their power comes through engaging and influencing others. Steadiness, the steadies, right? They're calm, they're routine-based, probably a little bit more reserved. And then the conscientious folks, they're very analytical and systematic. Doesn't mean that you don't have some of these traits, but most of us have a little bit more of one than the others. Looking at some of these, right? Think of the axes, right? Even keelness, people-orientedness, task-orientedness, excitability. Maybe you're high on analytical thinking and the task, but I'm not social about it at all. Right? Look at some of these and someone tell me where you see yourself. Or if you've taken this quiz, which letter do you think you are? I'll tell you what I am. Yes?
I've taken it before multiple times, and dominant, I'm someone who, as you can see, raises their hand.
Why she rose her hand twice in the first 5 minutes of the workshop?
Yes.
So you agree with it?
Oh, 100%. That my mom also always says that, of like, I'll be the first person to talk in a room. I'll
Text your mom and tell her she was right.
I'm someone who, if there's a group project, I'll be like, okay, you, we're in a group, let's get started.
Okay. In the back, touching your hand.
Hi, my name is Ariana. I feel like I'm a mixture between steadiness and influence.
Okay.
I would say I'm very selective. I'm an introvert / extrovert. So it just depends on the moment, but I'm trying to be more dominant.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So you're aware, so you actively try to play up the other side of your personality. Who else? Yes, Nora.
I'm going to say that as someone with a strong influencer, I think in the past I have not given myself credit for also being conscientious, or the opposite, or I've labeled myself as one way, and as I get older, I notice that if I just take a deep breath, I can do the other things too.
Do you feel like people need the other things? Do you feel it when you should be, but you're leading with what you're used to? I guess, how situational is it?
Yeah, I think it's important in order to empathize with others who are different from you to try to exhibit or make space for the other sides.
Yeah. The challenge with personality, and you all sort of echo this, personality is more fixed, right? Really, it's who we are. And so to the point that was made, right, if we want to play up another side, we really have to be deliberate about it. What's usually and that's not always easy. We'll talk about ways to do that. But what's usually really easy is to recognize these in other people. So I'm conscientious. You can look at my deck. There's so much information. I have 32 slides. That should tell you I'm an analytical thinker. There is a type that makes me a little uncomfortable, which I've had to work on really for the past 10 years. As much as I talk and as many times as I speak publicly, the influencer part does not come natural to me. That is something that I spent years working on. In my mind, my personality is I want to be judged on the quality of my work. I did a good job. Why do you have to like me? Just look at the paper. Look at the thing I just gave you. Did you not hear what I just said? The social part is difficult. So I've had to go out of, because remember, that goodwill. Okay, she's smart, we can rely on her, but does she even like us? Is she happy? Like, these are the questions that come up at work if people never see that social side of you. So I've had to do little things like remembering, okay, I just want to get to the point in this meeting, but let me ask people how their weekend was. True story. I don't watch a lot of reality TV. I started watching Love Island just because people talk about Love Island for 30 minutes before we can get anything done. I actually built a GPT in ChatGPT to monitor what is happening with Love Island. So I don't have to watch anything. I push a button, it's like, what happened? And it tells me what the meme-worthy topics are. I don't have to use it all the time. Now, sometimes I do watch the show. It pulled me in. But that didn't come natural to me. Right? I don't recommend watching Love Island, but find whatever it is I will not endorse that show. But find what it is. What is the purpose of doing that? Because I want them to think I am cool? No, I want to connect with them. I want to show them that I'm taking an interest in things that they are interested in. Doesn't come natural. Does anyone see an example of someone or something that you know that is opposite of you or far from who you are and how you communicate? With the glasses and curly hair, you were nodding like, yeah, I see someone. You?
I do know other people that are very completely different, where they're very analytical, systematic.
Does it drive you crazy?
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself?
Myself, I feel like I'm more on the study side and a little bit of the socialness for the influence. And so when I'm interacting with someone who's very systematic and needs to have every single task like to a T, and then asks me about it, like sometimes I feel overwhelmed when I'm near.
It makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah, because I'm kind of like go with the flow, like get it done, but they're like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Do you watch Love Island?
I do.
Okay, see?
I
See?
very much do.
But I would lean towards you to try to meet you in the middle, right? But you feel it, you recognize it immediately because it's not your nature. Do you see the need and the value of all of these though, right? We need people who have all of these traits in the workplace. If everyone is an influencer, what is going to happen to that team? In the back with the suit.
They won't get anything done.
Yes.
Because I am an influencer and like I'm terrible at doing like systematic time, but I'm good with people, you know, like that's my strength and other people are not.
But at some point those people have to do some work or get a project done or finish a movie or something like that.
Yeah.
So sometimes you pull it down. Usually what employers are doing is they're trying to create cohesive teams that have all of these and have everyone be able to work together. So I hope you all find yourselves in a workplace where everyone is your personality style. Let us all know, we'll all apply for jobs there. It's not likely to happen. Somewhat related, and again, you'll see some consistency across these. This one to me is the most important, right? Communication is an information business. I work in PR, I work in insights, I work with a lot of data. My job is to take complex things and simplify them for other people. So what we call cognitive communication styles really refers to how people deal with information. How do you like people to explain things to you, to convey data to you, right? How do you like to learn? This is my life. But similar to the personality styles, you'll see these sound familiar, right? They're the intuitive communicators. They just want bottom line communications. They don't want your 1,500 word email. They don't want to know what you did this weekend. They don't want to hear about Love Island. What do I need to do? Why is it important? What comes next? This is my boss. If I send him an email that's more than 3 sentences, I know he's not going to read it. So I always front load the 3 bullets that I know he'll read. And it's either, if you'd like more information, I could let you know, or below are the details, or here's my rationale below, because I know he's not even going to read that. But again, I'm the analytical person. I need to do that. Meeting that person in the middle is giving them a little bit of what they need, balanced with what I do. They prefer brevity, right? Recognize the people in your orbit. Think about the disposition of the people that you are communicating to. And then go back and look at what your instincts are, and you will find ways, things that you can tweak immediately. The functional communicators, you would think that they're similar to the analyticals, but these folks actually drive me crazy. Right? Functional communicators, they care about the process. Right? You want to know how something was done, and before they tell you what the answer is, they're going to tell you every step. Well, first, I did this, and I tried this, and it didn't work, so I went and talked to so-and-so. I'm like, I don't care. Just tell me, where did we land? What are we actually talking about? I don't care about the full history. But some people, for them, edifying how they got to where they are makes them feel comfortable with the information that they're conveying. To them, it's important context. That before you tell me which workshop you're in, you're going to tell me every workshop you thought about, decided not to go to. And, you know, I wasn't going to come, but like, what workshop were you going? But for her, it's important for me to understand the thought process around that. Right? Do you know any of these people where there's probably a little more information than most people need, but you can see it's valuable to them to convey it? Me, the analytical communicators, I'm going to tell you, but then I'm going to give you evidence. And I'm going to give you bullet points to support it. I'm going to tell you why. Because I don't want you to what? Question my expertise. You can see what these styles lean towards too. Right? I don't want you to like me. I want you to think I'm smart. I want you to believe me and trust what I say so you can take what I do. I took out a whole section of this presentation about generational differences because I didn't want to sort of stereotype across age and evolution in the workplace or time in the job, because some of that plays a role as well. But the takeaway is, right, you can probably figure out that someone who's an analytical communicator who just wants to be trusted probably values autonomy. Right? I want pass on the information, I want you to trust it, and then leave me alone. That feels good to me. You believe me, yes. So again, think about what the person needs in terms of what they're trying to express, but also what they value, and maybe what they're concerned about. Right? If I'm concerned that you all don't like me and that, yeah, my work is good, but I'm not a part of the team, you better believe my interactions, my emails are going to start with, hey girl, how was your weekend? Did you see this week's episode of Love Island? Oh, by the way, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, but I'm going to give you a little bit of that. And then the personal communicators, you influencer types. You don't care about the information until you've made that personal connection. This is the person who, in every team meeting, has to have that little bit of social time at the start. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? The key is to the point made in the back, right? We don't want to have the social time for 30 minutes and then we only have 20 left for the meeting. But some people really need that. Right? It makes them feel present, it makes them feel connected, and only then can they move on to the work. So it's less about information. They can't even get to the information until they've made that social connection in the room. Do you see yourselves in one of these buckets? Who wants to tell on themselves that hasn't already? Yes.
Okay, so I'm gonna tell myself I'm most likely a functional communicator, even in my personal.
I picked you correctly, right?
Even in my personal relationships, they ask me a question, I would answer it first, and then I start going through the context. Like,
backstory.
oh, I thought about this, but then this didn't work, and then I went to this, but then this happened, so now I'm here, and I chose this, and then and then suddenly it's been like 5 minutes.
Okay.
You know,
But you're self-aware.
Yeah, I've been cutting it down a little bit, especially with people I don't know that much, but I heard you describe functional communicators, and I was like, oh, that's what that is.
That's what that is. And you understand it. So what might you do to adapt to that person?
To a fellow functional communicator?
To someone who's in either of the other buckets, who maybe is less eager to hear the backstory.
I think filter the information a little bit more. Like I said before, usually I would give the answer first and then the context comes after, but that's still like a pretty long spiel of information. So since the answer usually comes first, it'll be a lot easier for me to cut down the information that I usually put right after.
Do you, other advice, to look for cues, right? We can tell when we've gone on too long and people are kind of, we're losing them,
Yeah.
but meeting them with the brevity, giving them the upfront first is a good strategy. Anyone else see themselves in one of these buckets? Yes.
I definitely think I'm more of an intuitive communicator, for both verbally and also like just as a student, like when it comes to writing.
So this workshop must be driving you crazy. She's like,
No.
go to the next slide in her mind.
I appreciate the context, especially when it comes to writing. A lot of my feedback is that I need to explain more and give more context, and to me, it's harder to do that because I don't realize at first that like things I know is not immediately what other people know. So I think it's helpful to have that feedback of like give more context, let the other person know where I'm coming from, and maybe lean into the functional side.
Yeah, or it depends who, right? If you are talking to a functional person, your process, right? They want to make sure you did it correctly. But if it's me, just give me a few bullet points. Give me your rationale, right? I'm an analytical person. I don't care about the process. Just give me proof. I like what you're saying. I want to understand why I like it, right? Meeting people in the middle. Yes.
I would say I'm a mix of functional and analytic, because
You
when
care
I
about
have to present a job and work, I will make like 5 points that I have to say, and I will just repeat it every time somebody arrives. But if I, like in a personal conversation, I would talk so much that I will even lost the thread, and if I'm walking and I see something on the street, I will mention and start talking with the person and then come back to to the other thing I was saying. Like my best friend, I would send her like 30-minute audios to WhatsApp.
She cannot text. Everything is a voice note.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the crazy thing is she loves me so much that she hears all of it. It's like in my personal life, I'm a functional, but when I have to present something, I just memorize what I have to say and repeat it just to get the people know.
Who do you think you drive the most? Who do you think that might frustrate the most?
I was
Your friend across the table.
into
Uh,
they get mad.
I will tell you in the work, this really matters. Everyone take a picture of this. This really matters because while personality is fixed, we all pick up other traits because we are at work, right? We're in a workplace or professional setting. Leaders, CEOs, have to be intuitive communicators. So even if it's something they don't do naturally, to be a boss, you have to master intuitive communication. And so when we think about managing up, putting the self in the disposition of a leader, they are busy, they don't need to get in the weeds, they've asked you to do this project, they need to know what's most important. If they wanted to hear the whole process, every step, they would have done it themselves, right? The goal of empowering you or trusting you is so that they don't have to worry about the details. So remember that your boss, your superiors, 50% of their mindset at work is going to be intuitive communication. And ask these questions. Yes, in the back.
If you are an intuitive communicator, what are some skills you can learn to convey ideas more clearly to people who are not intuitive communicators, like functional, analytical?
Give them what they want.
Okay.
Some proof points. The analytical people will love that. Attach a background document. I do that all the time. One of my favorite colleagues is another analytical communicator. We should just go stand in the hallway and have a conversation, but we're not social people. We send each other emails all day with bullet points and we attach articles. Because I want him to understand where this information comes from, because he's about to go share it with a client. For the functional folks, here are the 3 takeaways. And at the bottom, right, FYI, this was my process. And very high level. Give them little bits of what we know they value. This is always going to be your boss. If you are working in any situation where there's a client subordinate or someone is in power over you, they expect intuitive exchanges from you. So absolutely be able to master that, absolutely know how to talk to people who have that mindset. Make sense? No one should ever have conflict at work, but it happens. Our conflict communication styles, that's another one that sort of transcends the workplace. We all know these people. Again, disagreement, something goes wrong, high stress, an argument. Like, think of all the ways people can have conflict at work. You have options of how you can respond. Passive communication. I don't care, whatever, okay, fine. All right. Just allowing yourself to be rolled over because you're maybe conflict avoidant. You just don't want to fight. You don't want to go back and forth, whatever. Might be our tendency in social lives. At work, that can't happen, right? People are paying for your ideas. They want you to pitch them hard, convince them. So we can't really be passive when we shouldn't be. Passive aggressives, probably the worst. All right, fine, whatever you say. Okay, we'll do it your way. We know these people. I can do it with my sister. I can't do it at work. Right? Again, thinking of the mindset we need to have at work. We're working together with people to get the best outcome, to do the best work for whatever the goal is. And if we're passive aggressive, again, that's not constructive. Aggressive communication, I hope you never work with this kind of person, but they exist, right? Overly dominant people in a negative way. Right? There's no bad way to be, but in conflict, being overly dominant is not conducive to getting a solution. Why is dominant communication a problem in conflict? Yes, in white shirt.
They're not listening at all to anyone else but themselves.
Conflict occurs because people have multiple points of view. And if you stay dominant in that situation, the conflict will never end. So you gotta fall back a little. Yes, Charlene?
I'm curious if this is categorized under passive aggressive when someone is basically silent, like they actually give no communication, or they're very parsimonious on what they're feeding in terms of like you're working on a project and you need to know the status on their side, but they're not like sharing
Yes.
information. Like, is that passive aggressive?
It depends. Passive, I don't have an opinion, whatever. Passive aggressive, I have an opinion, but I don't like that you disagree with me, so I'm not sharing it. I don't care. Passive, you just roll over. Like, all right, whatever Derek says, okay, my ideas aren't good. We're just going to do it his way. That would be passive. Because we know sometimes it's easier to just go with somebody else's idea. I don't want to go back and forth with you. I'm not mad about it. It's just easier. I'm just going to do what Derek says. It's okay. That's fine. But I might have had the better idea. Passive aggressive is that, but I have another point of view, and I'm punishing you by not sharing it. That is my protest. I'm going to stay silent. Fine, Charlene, do whatever you want. I disagree, but whatever. If we fail, we fail. That's passive aggressive. Right? Passive folks just roll over. There's no aggression in it. People can be both of those things. Right? Choosing the path of least resistance, but choosing the path of least resistance in spite is aggressive. What we want to do is assertive communication. And again, if you are understanding and thinking about all of the communication styles, you're not offended if someone has a different point of view. They have a different way of expressing themselves. They have a different value system about information. So maybe they're weighing the facts heavier than the emotional impact of the decision. Right? We think differently about these things. So collect points of view, right? What are all of our options? Well, what do you think? What do you think? I might be stewing deep down inside because I disagree with you and I think she's wrong and I know I'm right, but tell me more about your opinion. I'm at least open to it. Right? If you understand that, okay, it's not a personal attack. That's usually what does this and causes the tension. We feel attacked. But now you know it's not an attack. It's just a difference in cognitive communication styles. It's a different in personality. We can overcome it. So the best thing to do at work, right, the best thing for your employer is to get the best out of everyone on the team, not for 3 people to roll over and 1 person to take charge. So it's best for whatever the outcome of the business is for people to be assertive. You have to share your point of view. Everyone at the table. The more you talk about it, the more you listen to each other, you'll figure out who's wrong. And sometimes the best strategy is to just let people talk. They will talk themselves out of their own idea. They will talk themselves into the flaws in their thinking. Just let them talk. Listening actually helps you. If you really disagree, the more they talk, you have more ammunition to go after. It's like, oh, that thing. Oh yeah, it sounded great. I agree with you until that point. But you knew 20 minutes ago they were wrong. But let them elaborate, right? Let them do what is natural to them in terms of how they communicate. All right. If you have your phone, oh yes, sorry, go ahead, and then here, in the back.
Yeah, so if you're having a conversation with your boss where we're kind of past the point where we discuss their options, everyone has made their opinion known, but at the end of the day, like, it is their call. How do I kind of, like, see the ground to them without making it seem, like, still holding my ground, but just being like, okay, like, let's do this and move on, kind of thing.
Here, this is where the listening helps. So I still think we should do A, based on blah, 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 and blah, blah, blah. But it sounds like the group would really like to do B. And then as a third option, C. I have welcomed all of the point of views, right? You're going to present the 3 options. You are going to make it clear. You're still going to be assertive and say, I still believe that A is the best point of view, but I respect that everyone in the group really thinks that we should do B. And that's the job of a boss, is to make the final call. And so the whatever you can do, if you can't come to a final decision or agreement, present the case in a way that the consequences, what's at stake with the choice, is clear to the final decision maker. Another strategy is, can't agree, we're going to do this first, and if it doesn't work, we're going to go to my idea. So if you can't come to consensus, you can either prioritize or you can make a clear case for a third party, an outside person, to decide. The other is just table the conversation. I always say when you're in a brainstorming conversation or in any kind of conflict situation where everybody's sharing their side of the story, don't also try to make a decision in the moment if you can. Because everyone's worried about getting their point of view across, not necessarily making the best decision. Okay, well, it's not a long quiz, it's 12 or 13 questions. We'll take 5 minutes. And then when you have completed it, it's going to tell you what your top 2 styles are. We'll talk through them. But I want you to share at the table and see if there's someone at the table who has a similar style or different. Because you want to pay attention to who's not like you. When you're done, just raise your hand. People are walking in like, why are they so quiet? They're taking a quiz. It's okay. You can come in. These styles will be different from the ones that we talked about. They share some elements, but don't overthink the questions. Or don't try to map to a particular type. It'll give you your primary and your secondary. Finished? Thinking. If you're surprised or you disagree, don't worry. You can take it again later. But just take it once for now. I've done that. That is not me. I'm doing this again. First result is usually right. Who's done? Okay. Raise your hand if you are surprised by the result.
Oh, I'm in.
Or raise your hand if you disagree and are like, forget this test, I'm taking it again later. All right. Again, different categories, but they kind of overlap. The direct communicator, the driver, right? Focused on results, efficiency, probably likes that intuitive communication, clearly, concisely. I'm gonna get short emails from this person. They want to just get things done and get them done well. But the risk, they might come across as blunt, impatient, or under pressure. And you can see how in a situation where we know these folks. Again, this is that HR person that you're dealing with who has to get this position filled or has to narrow down this pile of 300,000 resumes that they have for one job. Don't take it personal, right? But your focus is understanding what their need is. And their need is to get things done quickly. What's the fastest way to the best outcome? And so how can you help that person? The opposite, where you sort of see the biggest challenge. So these two are opposites. Raise your hand if you were a direct communicator. All the direct folks. Raise your hand if you were expressive. If you were like the influencer social types. Okay. Not saying you won't get along. Not saying you can't be friends. But this is your opposite in the workplace. They're going to think you overlook details, you're too focused on the social, right? That is the core misperception that you should go into any first interaction, any new job, trying to correct. I'm social, but I can also get things done. But you're also the big ideas person. Expressives. That's why we need you too. Because when we're all like, yeah, let's just get things done, facts and figures, you're like, wait, we need ideas. And we know that in media, right, it's a business, but creativity is at the heart of it. And that's your superpower to bring to the table. I suspect the rest of you are one of these other two categories. The analyticals, guilty as charged. Raise your hand if you're an analytical person. Okay. Test. Raise your hand if you're analytical people. Keep them up. Analytical people, put your other hand up if you would also consider yourself an introvert at work. Okay. People like analyticals because we're taskmasters. We get stuff done. We make people smarter. We explain things just enough. We like accuracy, figures. We tend to appear overly reserved and cautious. The expressive folks make us a little nervous because they've got these ideas, and ideas don't have data and support, so it makes us a little uncomfortable. It's not that we're not creative, but it takes us out of our comfort zone. And so we're looking for data that supports decisions. We have to go into a situation, a new job, a new interaction, ingratiating ourselves to a new boss, making sure that they understand that we have ideas too. That we can be creative. Every now and then we can do things on the fly, right? We are nimble. We tend to also be a little bit reserved. Right? It's analytical thinking and introversion are two personality traits that are related. And so you might want to try to be a little bit more like the social folks. But again, that Love Island chit chat, people prying about your social life, makes you uncomfortable. It's not what we usually talk about. So in the workplace, that is our opposite. They are the people that you struggle with the most, right? In terms of, not conflict, but you feel the difference the most. They're worried about people impact, and we're worried about the best decision, right? All the evidence is here. Let's just do it. Like, well, it's the right thing to do, but so-and-so's worked really hard on this. Let's just go with what they're doing. And it drives you crazy as an analytical to make a decision that is not based on the best evidence. But again, we're going to lean in a little bit. I encourage you to spend some time thinking about this, spend some time thinking about the people that you know, even in your personal life. The better you get at spotting this, the further you will get in life. After a few minutes of talking to people, I can usually put them in one of these categories based on what they speak the most about, how they start a conversation, right? All of these are signals. The goal is adaptive communication, right? The more you recognize, the more you know about what underlies these types, the faster you can adapt. There's no best personality or best communication style to have. The people who win are the people who recognize others and meet them in the middle. Make sense? Yes. Okay. And it's situational. I can be analytical on certain projects, but there might be other things that I'm doing where I know I have to play at the social. So be able to be multiple things in the same day, in the same role, on the same team. All right, I want to shift gears a little bit because we've talked about this and we're running out of time. things you should do. So we all know that communication at work is important, but there are really only three things, I shouldn't say only, there are three categories of communication interactions that we have at work. The relationship function. To do well, teams need social cohesion. You gotta get along. The organizing function. People have to be able to coordinate, control projects, direct tasks, explain outputs. And then the change function. People who can brainstorm, can solve problems, can think outside of the box. Right? Whatever your personality style is, you're plugging into these three categories of communication all day. If you're talking to people at work, whatever that conversation is about anything, it's going to fall into one of these buckets. So I want you to think of which ones you do well. That's what you want to stress when you go into a role. So they understand, not my communication style is dominant. They don't care about that. I am really good at contributing to team cohesion, helping there be a positive work environment. So this is the outcome of the communications we have with our peers. The challenge is we're not usually good at all of these, right? I already know the social folks are probably really good at the relationship function. But of these three, right, there's probably one where you have to work on. I gave you my example. I am great at the change function. You want to take something complex and make it simple. Navigating uncertainty, I'm your girl. You want to organize things, I'm your girl. The relationship function, I had to work on. I know my personality type. I know other people's personality types. I had to identify opportunities to support the group and contribute to that relational communication in the group. Hence the Love Island thing. I like to eat at my desk. Every now and then, I might go eat in the cafeteria. Just so people can say they saw me there. Even if I'm not eating. Going to a happy hour, I don't drink. You know what I do? I will walk people to the happy hour. I'm like, bye guys, going to the gym. But I went, try to meet people halfway. Because people will remember that you were not there. Quickly, somebody point to one where going into work, I know, across personality styles, putting that aside, I just have to be better at one of these buckets of interactions. Somebody tell me what your weakness is. Yes?
The relationship building immediately, I'm definitely someone who is like, okay, this is what we have to do, and like, let's talk it through and get it done, and then go do our separate things.
Yep. Early career also, so that's tied to your communication style. Early career, often the change function is a challenge. Who gets nervous when someone asks you, what do you think, or to be part of a brainstorm? Right? Sharing creative ideas makes you uncomfortable. In the back.
Yes, I'm more of a organizer. Like I plan my whole life. Like I have a diary, I write in it. I have a whiteboard, I write my task out. I get things situated. It has to be perfect.
You like structure.
For me to change fast enough, I struggle with that because I need time to understand things and to grasp in order for me to move out of it. So to give you like an answer back, I need to think about it first.
Yes, yes. Were you an analytical or functional?
I was analytical
Yeah.
and assertive.
Yep. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's a combination. She wants to talk, but only about things that she can prove. So brainstorming, not her thing. Sharing an idea that she's only thought about for 30 seconds, you probably hate that. Okay. She's like, yes, absolutely, 100%. All right. Did you have your hand up too?
I think I could use a little bit work in organizing. I feel like my brain is just like a scramble of anything and everything imaginable, and I need to be able to like sit down and like mentally make myself categorize and organize things. I don't do it naturally, you know.
But we would love you in the change function. We would love you in a brainstorm, because you're just going to be off the cuff where everyone else is going to hesitate and want to get their ideas in a row before they share them. So you have your value. A good strategy is, if you're not good at these things, say you are. Right? In an interview, create the impression, because you know you have to work on it. And you want to work on it from day one. I like coordinating and organizing projects. Right? That's the signal that you want to send verbally, proactively, because you know you're not going to send it passively. People are not going to pick up on that. Right? But you have to make the connection and the commitment to doing that work. But I know when I'm in an interview or meeting someone for the first time, I don't give off the relationship vibe. So I have my list of questions. So what are you working on? Is now a busy time for you? How long have you, I have my set list of things that I know I have to do. Because after today, they're never going to see the social me. They're going to see the analytical me. So I have to put that out front first. All right, some just general tips in the interest of time. Maximizing routine interactions. Listening and ask questions. If you hate socializing, I don't want to tell you what I did for my weekend, so I'm going to ask you about your weekend. I'd rather talk about you. You know, people love talking about themselves. Communicating to make others aware of your ideas. You could be really smart, but if no one's ever heard you say anything creative, you should be concerned about that. Every now and then, have an idea. You know what I was thinking? Just so that people know you are capable of it when needed. Not all the time. There are people who are going to do that all the time. It's not your superpower, but people need to know you can do that if you have to. Engage them in team talk. I'm not a fan of Jeff Bezos, but that was built into meetings at Amazon from day one. Number one, every one of his meetings started with people reading something, so that if you weren't prepared for the meeting, everyone was kind of reading from the same book. And then there was 5 minutes of chit-chat. But there was an end to it. But he recognized that to build a healthy company culture, people need to know a little bit about themselves. I've worked places where people know absolutely nothing about my social life. And that was a missed opportunity, because we probably would have had different connections. We might have had something in common that made them want to work with me more or do things with me more. It's an opportunity, right? So a little team talk, chit chat, water cooler is actually quite good. Asking people about their communication preferences. Ask your supervisor, what do you prefer? My number one pet peeve, I send this person an email and she responds to me on Slack. It's like, I get it. You don't have time to write an email. But I asked you the question right here. And now the answer's in a second place. So for me, my email is like a historical record of the conversation. I want it all in one place. But this person is thinking of their needs, which is, I don't want to open my email, I'm in the middle of a thing, and I'm just going to respond to you here. It signals something that probably they didn't intend, right? But to me it says, well, what you're doing is more important than what I'm doing, and that's not a good signal to send, right? So ask people, what's your preferred way of communication? Do you check Slack all the time? Can I text you? Would you rather I call or just come to your office? When your door is closed, should I just stay away? Or tell people, I sent you an email because I saw your door was closed. Doesn't hurt. We don't talk about this enough, right? This causes so much conflict. Be enthusiastic about meeting someone in the middle. Oh, you want me? Yeah, I'm happy to explain the process. Even if we're not. Oh, just listen to what I said. You want to know how I came to this? You're happy to do that, right? But show enthusiasm for adapting. And this is very important. Match the communication purpose with the channel. Talk for 2 days about what's called rich media. Right? The richest media is in person. Just before that, video. But even video we know is not the richest. You don't see everything. But when we talk about richness of communication or the richness of media, it's how many cues are we giving that person? You can't get any more cues than when you're face to face. You hear my voice, you see me move, you see my gestures, you see my body language, you see everything. In Zoom, you see right here. A little bit more than an email, definitely more than a text, right? The rule of thumb is the more complicated the communication, the richer the platform, the media that you use should be. If it's something where you got to explain and defend yourself or outline the process, do it face to face. Because if you do that in an email, you'll increase the likelihood that you sound defensive, you're going to lose them. You had your hand up?
Yes, I had a question about, I know a lot of entry-level positions that I've seen online are often remote or hybrid. In those cases, how do you stand out and become a memorable team member when the media of...
When you're never face to face. Yep, you have to maximize those virtual interactions. I have a whole slide on that in a second. Asking smart questions, right? How do you prefer communication? Clarifying deliverables. That shows I'm being conscientious. I care about process. What are the norms and best practices, right? Questions, when people say, oh, I like people who ask smart questions. These are smart questions. Questions that are not smart are the questions that you ask over and over again. Or the questions that show that you haven't done any thinking before you ask them. But questions that ask for clarification, questions that show you did some thinking before you ask. Who needs to see this? Is there anyone else I should show this? Right? That shows respect. That shows I'm thinking about other people. All good signals. Again, little interactions that we have all day long, all of these build up to that credibility that we're striving for. Little signals over time. Oh yeah, this person always asks me, like, do they want to see something before the final product goes out? Shows that they understand what I bring to the table. I like that. Goodwill. Trust that person, right? Those people get the opportunities. Asking people for next steps. All of this signals that you are thinking ahead, you are considering the other person and adapting to what the situation and what their needs are. Being proactive. Also, I will send all of this to you because we're going to run out of time shortly. And I want to get to your question. But you know this, right? Under-promising and over-delivering. All of this, being proactive, talking about what we're doing as we're doing it. Anticipating what people might need that they might not say because they're analyticals and they're not social. So I'm social. Let me go to them and ask them, how can I help you? You look swamped. Is there anything I can do to help you with? That person may not do that. They're a bottom line person. They just told you what they're working on. They didn't tell you that they needed help. Or they didn't tell you how exciting the project was. And you want in on it. Can you tell me more about what you're doing? Force that person to meet you a little bit. Right? They know they have to do a little team talk. Give that person an easy opportunity. They'll talk about themselves, and you will probably benefit from that. All tied to communication. Social presence, that's what you were talking about. How do you feel like you are there when you are not there? Communicating boundaries in advance. My camera's going to be off today, guys, because I'm having a dishwasher replaced, or my dog is vomiting. Whatever it is, right? Never be off camera or invisible without some kind of explanation. I hear so much about this from senior managers who get furious when they're on a call with their team or a client or someone they're pitching, and one of their team members is not visible. Right? If that has to be, again, remember what that signals. If I'm communicating with you, I want information. I want to see the eye contact. I want to see this, the smiling, the nodding, the leaning in because I'm saying something interesting. If I don't see your face, I don't get any of that. Right? Those are called immediacy behaviors. We do it in person, right? Have you ever had a conversation with someone where you're both nodding at each other and your heads are, it's because we want the person to know that we like you. I like what you're saying. If I can't get that on Zoom, I'm going to feel disconnected from you. Always participate when you are on. Sometimes if you are an introvert, if you are quiet, just say the first thing. Ask the first question. Or wait till the end and say the last thing. But have your question ready. Try not to ever end a virtual meeting without having said a word. Because that's what people remember. Oh, they didn't say anything. Not that your dog was vomiting. Not that maybe you had an unstable connection. You didn't say anything the whole time. Right? You don't want people to extrapolate or assume why that was. Minimizing the background maintaining responsive follow-up. So again, if you want people to feel that you're connected, you're not seeing them, following up throughout the day about things that you've talked about. Not going for long stretches where people don't hear from you. Because again, people start to speculate, they start to fill in the blanks of that silence. And so it could be just asking someone, can they jump on for 15 minutes for a Slack huddle? I just want to run something by you for 5 minutes. It's nothing more beautiful than a very short Zoom call. It's easy, and honestly, even if they say no, you've done the job. You offered. They're not going to be able to do it all the time, but it shows that I want to connect with you. I have something to say. I'm trying to be present in your life. And you are because you've created the ask. So it's identifying opportunities to still have the same connections that you would in person, just doing it virtually. What I do with my boss is I hit her from all angles. We'll have our meeting in the morning. I'll send her a follow-up email with details. In the afternoon, I'll text her, you know what I was thinking about from this morning? So I'm all in her mix all day long. She's walking her dog, taking her kids to preschool, but I'm on her mind at all times. And you'll figure out what those preferences are and what kind of works as you get to know folks. Again, you're trying to avoid this. As someone who does a lot of virtual presentations, this does not feel good. You feel alone, and then you start wondering, what are Wanda and Magnus doing right now? They hate me. Am I boring them? Nothing good. People might think you're disengaged. People will think you are not participating. Oh, they're eating. Oh, they're watching something else on their laptop. Which you might not be doing, you're just quiet. Oftentimes people are doing something else. As someone who teaches a lot of online classes, Charlene, you know this, sometimes people are doing other things. I would teach a class and I remember some girl was watching something and every 2 minutes she was laughing. I'm like, I'm not that funny. She's clearly watching TV. Cognitively withdrawn. You're not saying anything, your camera's off, not because you're disengaged, because you don't understand and your mind is wandering. Maybe that's the case. It's probably not the case. Your camera's just off. Or you're socially disconnected. You don't like me, so your camera's off. You don't want to connect with me, or you hate this job. Yikes, right? Nothing good, or you're just not fully there for whatever reason. So again, trying to be on even when you're not in person. For written communication, same thing, right? We have multiple written exchanges throughout the day. Again, thinking back to those information styles. Every email, text message, usually the primary goal is to convey information, not social cohesion. Maybe a little bit. Right? You might text a coworker or a boss about something social, but for the most part, you want to refer to what people's information preferences might be. Building upon the team's writing. What are people usually doing? Right? How do people usually communicate? Whether it's a client document, how do they talk to each other? And then emulate that. Write with the reader in mind, right? Communication styles, personality styles. Always be brief. You can't go wrong. Everything I write, I go back and I say, can I say this thing in fewer words? And it's actually like a game. Okay, this sentence is 14 words long. How can I say it in 8? Oh, I don't need this word. I don't need that word. Right? Instead of people really should, they must. Right? The more you look at a sentence, you can find words to get to your point quicker without losing your own voice and your personality. That is a favor to the reader. The professionalism we all know, tone checking. Raise your hand if sometimes you get a little snippy in either text messages or emails. Yes. Usually a signal. The longer your email is, the greater the likelihood that you need a tone check. Okay. I will send all of this to you. Writing checklists. So you probably know what your tendencies and your weaknesses are. Put them in a document and have your checklist somewhere so that you know to look at what you're doing. And then probably the most important here, making sure that we are increasing the professionalism. Be careful with the text talk and the things that we are comfortable with based on the device, and lean into what the context is and who we're speaking to a little bit more than what our comfort level is with the platform. All right, I am going to stop there, and thank you all. You can send me an email. I will send you these slides. Thank you so much, guys. Enjoy the rest of your summit.